Welcome back. Now we are ready to move on to the next section, which is actually getting started to do our actual project. We already learned a lot of things in the Blender about interface, navigation, transformation, but that's just the general ideas to knowing the software. So we can actually get hands-on to doing something that we really wanted to do, which is to design a bottle and really render some really nice images. But before we get into that, we need some housekeeping setups in the Blender. This is something that often ignored or missed by a lot of Blender tutorials. People don't mention this part of a setup, especially if you're very new to Blender. This is very important to let you understand. So without further ado, let's get started. We know how to navigating inside the Blender, and what we wanted to do first is actually choosing the correct render engine. So if we actually go to here, this is a kind of a camera icon, look icon. It's called a render properties. So you can see here we have a render engine. So this is for our purpose of this class is actually focusing on photorealistic rendering. So the render engine, there's several of them, EV, Workbench, and the cycles. So EV and Workbench were not really working for our purpose. So we actually gonna pick the cycles and for photorealistic rendering. Okay, after we select the cycles, and then now you're gonna actually start seeing their feature set, something, we click it, supported, experimental, I would just leave it as supported. And then for the device, well, that's what I was talking about, what kind of the device you want to use to render your image. If you are Mac users, and you're probably gonna just stick with the CPU because you don't have a separate GPU to render, which is the graphic card. And if you're a PC user, I will highly recommend you to use the GPU compute. So this is using your strong, powerful graphic card to actually render the view. Okay, so after I select this, as you can see here, we're still having some default items in here. And one shortcut I want to mention is pushing the number 0 on the 0 pad. So hit 0. Then you can see this is what it looks like through the camera view. And if I type 0 out, and actually come out from here. So this is kind of something that going to be commonly used during these tutorials. But for this, what I want to try to show you, since we're in the camera view, so we actually look into the camera to see what's in the scene. So if you notice on the right hand side, last time we're kind of briefly talking about the actual mode, so we can actually kind of to see things through when we're doing editing, right? If we tap edit mode, we will see vertex in the back. So there is the solid mode that we are currently on, and we can actually just exploring other version of the viewport. So this is called viewport shading. So basically in this mode, if I just click that, it actually show you some of the texture base. And if I'm going to the very last one, it's actually the final render look. So you won't see any different now because for beginners, there's a lot of things you haven't set up yet. You probably won't see the difference. So if I've switched to the EV, it's just some very minor changes or differences. You won't tell what's going on. So that's the whole purpose of this short videos, to help you to set up things. So when we look at here, we know we have a camera, we have an object or a mesh or a cube inside of scene, and then we have a light. But this thing doesn't look like a cube whatsoever. We actually going to delete the whole thing, the camera and the light. I hit X to delete it, and then you just hit confirm. Click that. So now we are in the solid mode right now. So everything gray, no color, don't like that. And the next thing I want to introduce is called HDRI. It's a special type of image that we will use for our lighting. Okay, let me bring this thing in. So what is HDRI? You can download this in the Poly Haven. They are used called HDRI Haven. So basically there are a lot of HDRI images. You can see here, these are all the preview of the HDRI images you can download. The full name is called High Dynamic Range Imagery. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense. If I'm translated this into another terminology to really understand this, is actually just an environment. You see, all these pictures are representing an environment. Either it's inside, outdoors, whatever in the nature, you will have this environment going on here. So as you can see here, some have been taken inside of a garden or even cave. So this is what you're gonna have. So eventually you see how these UV spheres down here are balls. Here they're representing certain type of materials or texture. So glass, kind of matte shading or reflective or metallic items. They were reflecting things around them and based on in this environment. That's the beauty of HDRI image. That actually works like an environment, and a lot of time environment come with a lighting setup. So we can just introduce this HDRI image to our environment. So we don't need to manipulating light, everything change around. That's gonna take us quite a bit of time to really figure out where's the lighting. So I just want to set this up real quick. So next thing I want to do, I'm gonna tap the shading tab, click here, and immediately you are changing to a different a view layout of the viewport. And as you can see here, that's already immediately give you a viewport under the texture viewport. This is a different one. And then what we will do here, we're just gonna hold this and drag the whole thing over here, and we're gonna changing this small section to the shader editor. All right, shader editor, put in here. And right now you can see here, we have a window down here. We can actually push in to close it and push in to open up. And then we want to do here to change the object to the world, which is actually what we're trying to do. We're trying to load a HDRI image with the background. And remember, we had a short videos about how to enable an add-on. It's called Node Wrangler. So because of that add-on is already enabled, I just gonna click this background box. You can see here is already highlighted, and hit Control T, and quickly you see there's three things, windows kind of get connected with that. So these are called node, right? So they're hooked by noodles, all right? So this is kind of how Blender works. Without jumping in too much detail into there, I just wanted to let you guys know we want to set this thing up. And then we want to go, you see this kind of brown box right here, we zoom in, we want to open, hit click. This is HDR Haven or Poly Haven bathroom. So that's just kind of one environment we loaded in. Well, nothing happened. Well, the reason is that if we haven't really clicked the render view. If we did that, you immediately notice, whoa, this cube, it looks different. And also the environment is like, oh, it's inside somebody's bathroom. Yes, it is. So this is kind of like immediately you will have some cool lightings for this object. And then later on, when we building our mesh or object, we can just always constantly have this lighting around. So we don't need mess up with light in order to have to building the scene. So this is much easier and convenient. So next thing I wanted to do here is, yeah, it's cool, good to have some lighting, but it's kind of annoying on the background when I'm navigating through the scene. I don't want to see all these details. All I need is just a light, right? So the next thing I want you to do is go to this kind of camera icon here. We're gonna go there to scrolling down here. There's a film going on here, and we're gonna enable this transparent. So once we check on, you will notice what's happening in the viewport. Yes, everything is gone. We're still having the lighting left. So this is kind of perfect. If we go back to the layout, making this as a starting point, and since we're under the render property tab, so another thing I want to kind of making sure you guys set things up is the color management. If we click that, scrolling down. So the default setting is usually standard. I want to use the filmic. There's a lot of debate about how filmic works compared to standard. The filmic is actually a little bit more or less contrast kind of color palette, and usually involves some future color grading when you do animations and the movies. So for this, we're just gonna have more data. That's how I prefer. And another thing that there's a look. The looks usually is a kind of like defaults and none. If for me, my workflow, I usually put it on very high contrast. You can see there's a little bit different, but this is just kind of like the setup I often use, and with many projects I've been testing it, that this works very well for my workflow and the result. So I just gonna put these to set up these in this way, and everything kind of lock in at this moment. So, and if you notice that we kind of load in a HDR environment image in this file. So this file actually have additional stuff inside it, put it in. So another thing that we really need to remember, we need to go to the file, we go to the external data, because the images HDRI is considered external data. You want making sure you check automatically pack the resources. So when I click this, watch, and here down here, you will see some notification saying, yeah, pack the one file, so which is the HDRI. So next time when you open up this file in the Blender, you will automatically have this HDRI image with this file. So it's saving a lot of time to reload the HDR image again. So yeah, it's just gonna make everything much easier when we actually start doing our modeling in the next video. All right, this is everything I want to share in this video, and I will see you in the next one.